Good morning, everybody. We will start with our meeting today. I want to ask our colleagues, please take your seats. Dear colleagues, please. Colleagues, we will start with our meeting. Que yo la gente no sé. Es que... Queridos compañeros, queridas compañeras, queridos compañeros y compañeras,
colleagues, friends, dear Robert, my friend, thank you for your hospitality here in Krakow. Thank you for the warm welcome that your delegation has given us. We are a big European family, the S&D, who are providing a different response, as we did with the financial crisis, as we did with the pandemic, and as we are now doing with the fallout from the war in Ukraine. This meeting is taking place against a background of change, the biggest change in the EU in decades. Nobody could have imagined that there would have been such a major step forward in EU integration, which are in line with the upheaval we're living through. Putin invaded Ukraine 14 months ago. This war has led to massive destruction and ruin. We couldn't have imagined this in 21st century Europe. We have witnessed great suffering, the great suffering of the Ukrainian people. A month ago, I chaired a mission of the S&D group to Ukraine in Kyiv with the Ukrainian people. We felt their pain at the loss of lives of women, men and children, but we also felt their strength. They are fighting to live and for freedom. The EU is firm and coherent in its defense of the sovereignty and territorial Ukraine of different states. We have provided support to Ukraine in political terms, in humanitarian terms, in military terms, in economic terms, and more. In addition, we are fighting against impunity. We have provided 170 billion euros to Ukraine. This means that the EU and the member states are the biggest supporter of Ukraine. We have been behind 10 packages of sanctions, and in 2023 we've provided large amounts of money to refloat the Ukrainian economy, military support, and we're also training many Ukrainian soldiers. That shows that the EU has gone through a geopolitical awakening. We are also committed to ensuring that the Ukrainian people win this war. We want peace in Ukraine, but we don't want peace caused by a Russian victory. We want peace based on international law. And as the war continues, there's only one way forward: solidarity shown by our societies as we accept and welcome millions of refugees. Then we must also sanction and ensure that Russia doesn't circumvent any sanctions, and we support Ukraine using the seized Russian assets. We need to ensure that we support international justice so that every crime that is committed doesn't remain unpunished. And we must also shore up our military capacity. A Ukrainian victory is about ensuring the response that we need. When we turn on the electricity or the heating, we have to think about Ukraine. When we fill up our car, we have to remember the sacrifices we've made, and those sacrifices need to be offset by public authorities. Our citizens are also fighting fighting to have a decent job, to have decent housing, and to have high quality education for their children. This is a context in which there is a great inflation, which complicates people's lives. So at this time, the completion of the social pillar of rights must be the main way forward to deal with poverty and inequality. It's the only way forward for a strong, just Europe where there is true equality of opportunity. The member states need to speed up their transition of the directive on minimum wages, and the Commission needs to come forward with a proposal on a minimum living wage, which we as the S&D have long been fighting for. Now the national governments need to implement the child guarantee so that our children, our sons and daughters, will have right to healthcare and high quality education. It's the moment to establish a new pillar of the welfare state, the right to decent housing. The right to housing is a major issue. It shouldn't be about luxury or speculation. Ladies and gentlemen, Putin's war has been an opportunity to change Europe's energy framework. We have the Iberian mechanism, we have joint gas purchasing, we have a gas ceiling price, we have a windfall tax, and we are rolling out more and more renewable energies, which are all things that the S&D has been fighting for. Back in 2008, the financial and economic crisis showed that austerity was a terrible response. Now we in the S&D have an opportunity to show that the energy crisis is actually going to be the end of the marginalist system, which for decades has actually been eating away at our citizens' purchasing power. We also need to have a reform of the energy market. This industry is also grappling with major challenges: the digital gap, the digital divide, the issue of the US versus China, the changing supply chains, the issue of raw materials, critical raw materials needed in order to ensure decarbonization, digitalization, demographic change, and then there's also the impact of AI. If we are going to achieve strategic autonomy, then we need to move forward by re-industrializing the European Union. With the CHIPS Act, we also have the new proposal on critical raw materials, the reform of the electricity market, and the law on zero net carbon emissions. So we have those issues, and then we have social and climate issues. If we're going to deal with those social and climate issues, then we have to revise the economic governance framework so that it is in line with new challenges. We need to move forward with a new joint investment instrument. We need to have Next Gen EU 2.0, but we can't just react to new crises each time they occur. We need to have a specific way of dealing with upcoming crises, which will have different origins, but we need to be ready for those. So we need to defend the achievements of socialism, and we also need to look at what's happening in Poland and Hungary and the autocratic abuses there. When the right and the extreme right is in power, we will push back, fighting for the rule of law with solid institutions that will protect citizens and safeguard their rights. These are institutions that will be in line with the general interest and which will lead the way with integrity. There are continued attacks by ultranationalists on journalists, women's, judges, the LGBTQ+ community, and civil society as a whole. When they are attacked, we need to work with citizens and teach citizens so that they know what will happen if their fundamental rights are lost. Similarly, the fight against nationalist populism must force us to ensure that there are rights for the most vulnerable communities. The defense of women's rights cannot go backwards. The directive on gender-based violence, on tackling gender-based violence. So the directives on tackling gender-based violence and on pay transparency and on the Istanbul Convention need to be achieved in 2023. If we are going to ensure true equality between men and women, we will have to step up our fight. We have to end gender-based violence. We have to smash the glass ceiling. We need to ensure that sexual and fundamental health rights are in the Charter of Fundamental Rights. And in the future, we will also need migrants, and they are looking for better lives within our borders. Migrant flows need to be managed more efficiently, but we can't do that in the wrong way by erecting walls and fences. Instead, we need to have an approach based on solidarity and shared responsibility, and that will require a new pact or package on migration, where we integrate asylum seekers and where we promote legal pathways for migrants, including education and training. Friends, colleagues, we've seen from history that the rise of the far right is based on false solutions. Instrumentalizing social unease is a typical tool of the populist extreme right. We have to neutralize that so that the stability of our union is not put at risk. The EU is one of the world's major powers. We are courageous, we show solidarity, and we are open to the world. We are responsible and we are looking for peace, and we truly believe in our union. We can look to the future with hope. Today, we can hope that there will be a recovery that leaves no one behind. We need to continue to underline the role of social democracy. We need to consolidate our progressive agenda so that there is fairness for all. And it's only when we're united that we make progress and that we generate trust. We are ready to further consolidate trust in our union, and that's what our citizens want and deserve. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, I'll moderate the round table from here, and we'll be hearing from various different speakers. We want to hear about their perspectives, their points of view. The colleagues from Poland and Nowa Lewica. Sorry if I mispronounce everyone's names, anyone's names. So I give the floor to Maciek Dula, a member of the Polish Parliament and of Nowa Lewica.
Witajcie,
Dear friends, welcome. Dear friends from the European left, from the Polish left, from the lower Poland region left. We are in Krakow. There is no Poland without Krakow, because there is no Poland without the Wawel Castle, without Sukiennice, without the artist Wyspiański. But there's no Krakow without progressive ideas. This was here when Kościuszko swore to protect the whole nation. What did it mean for him? He said, I'm not going to fight only for the nobility, for the noble ones. He prepared an appeal to women. He introduced the peasants. He introduced the Jews to the army. Just imagine how controversial it was back then. It was revolutionary. And we are true to those ideas in Krakow. We believe that without solidarity, without the inclusion of minorities, without turning ourselves to those who are deprived of their dignity, it's not possible to build a true, strong nation, a nation which forgets about its poor, about its excluded, becomes a fossil, not a nation. And in Krakow, we have had one of the biggest manifestations during the women's strike after the new abortion law was introduced. The biggest pride parades take part in Krakow. We demonstrated here with the nurses, with the Polish nurses who are degraded to be paid less. This is here in Krakow when scientists from the Polish Academy of Science were protected and they were attacked by the Minister of Education just for publishing research on Holocaust. Krakow believes that when we stand hand in hand, when we are together in solidarity, then we can win with every kind of power, every kind of government. There is no Krakow without progressive ideas, and there is no Europe without socialists, without progressive agenda. When I see you in Krakow, I know that you are fighting for Europe which does not support the status quo. You are not for Europe which is aimed only at providing the privileged ones with what they want and expect. And I believe that you will make it. I believe that we will make it.
Now I have to tell you that it's easier for me to introduce my dear colleague, Robert Bidrum.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I will speak Polish, so please put your headphones back. Dziękuję Ci bardzo.
Thank you very much, Irache. I would like to welcome all of you here in Krakow, in Poland, in the royal city of Krakow, a city that had long been the capital of Poland before Warsaw. And we have been here working for a few days. And I believe that Krakow has become the capital of progressive Europe for those few days. Our debates, our discussions show that when we give ourselves a chance to open the window, a lot of fresh, healthy air can come in. So I would like to say to all of my colleagues from all over Europe representing this open, modern, progressive Europe, I'd like to say thank you. That's the Europe of our dreams. That's the Europe we have been fighting for. That's the Europe of equal chances and of solidarity. But during the last days, we have been reminded over and over again that we wouldn't be here without a very important decision that was taken 19 years ago. On the 1st of May 2004, Poland, together with other countries, European countries, became members of the community. And this is why we are here today. Poland, together with other countries, got a great chance, historical opportunity. And as a member of a Polish left, we believe, and I've heard it a lot from you, that's a chance that is easily lost. Unfortunately, for the few days, as for the last few years, the Polish government, in opposition to the Polish society, has done its utmost to move out of the European Union. There was this attack on the rule of law, on the separation of powers, on the constitutional order, then LGBT-free zones, women's rights have been attacked. These are just a few examples of what the Polish ruling party has been doing. And that's why yesterday It was with a great surprise here in Krakow that we saw that the same people, with no sense of shame, invoked Polish constitutional traditions. They invoke one of the oldest constitutions in the world. The Polish constitution was the second ever enacted, and they had their mouths full of words about solidarity, about equal chances, about democracy, and in their mouths those words are empty, and the values that they invoked are the same that they have been attacking. So we need to say it out loud. There is no alternative for Poland. There is no alternative for Europe. No member state has an alternative. The choice is between the European Union and servitude to Putin. That's a historical choice. That's a choice of civilization. That's a choice between equality, solidarity, and terror, servitude, autocracy. And this is what Putin offers, and we know how it can end. We in Poland know full well. Irache mentioned situation in Ukraine during her presentation, but we know what's happening in Belarus, what's happening in those countries within the influence zone of Putin. And the progressist European left cannot agree. We must be a guarantee for the whole of European society that will build a community of independent countries, independent societies that cooperate in solidarity. 77% of Poles are optimistic about the European Union. That's the third place in Europe, just after Denmark and Ireland. So, colleagues, you are in one of the most pro-European societies on earth. You are here hosted by people who have been fighting long to become members of this European community. But you are also in a country which is governed by people who use the slogans of isolation, discrimination, division. They divide Poles into the better ones and worse ones, those who have rights and who don't have rights. That's the power of contempt. They have been dividing us as nobody has ever done. Yesterday, one of the coalition parties changed their name. They used to be Solidarna Polska, Poland of Solidarity, but maybe they understood that they had nothing to do with solidarity, so they started calling themselves a sovereign Poland. But what does it mean for them? What kind of sovereignty they mean? Yesterday they said that they were going to fight against the European Union and against European values. They told tales of things that it would seem wouldn't be acceptable to any reasonable society, especially in a country at risk of and threatened by Putin's tanks. So Zbigniew Ziobro, the president of the sovereign Poland, says what Morawiecki and Kaczyński will not say. They are all brown. They are all full of contempt. They are all full of hatred against other human beings. So the left is up against a civilizational task. There are former prime ministers here with us. prime ministers that helped us become a part of the European Union. So once again, thank you very much. We have been members of the EU for 19 years. It's an obligation. It's an obligation to reinvent ourselves and to keep on thinking how to improve the Union. That's why here from Krakow we need to say that there is a time for new chapter of Polish presence in the European Union. We need new politicians, we need new political forces that will be pro-European and that will energize the European project. So, dear colleagues, before the autumn elections, we as the Polish left, we are ready to take responsibility for Poland, and we are ready to make the Polish dream come true. We need to have European values in Poland, and we are ready to introduce them. Thank you very much. So, what does it mean in practice? First of all, Poland is the fifth economy of the European Union. It's one of the strongest countries. And Poland cannot be put at the back bench. Poland has to be sitting at the top table with the biggest players because we have a lot to say, because Polish women and men have a lot of deals to do at the European Union's table, but they also want to cooperate in solidarity to co-create the Europe. We want to be back at the top table. We want to be a top player. We want to shape the tone and future of the European Union, and we want to be the beating heart of Europe. But it's not possible without fighting for our real interests. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been discussing it for the first time. In Poland, there is a governing party that has not delivered the EU funding for 2 years. Today, we celebrate 2 years since the moment when they were not able to deliver what every other single government, be it liberal, be it right-wing, did. They have not been able to use the funds that could be a drive for the development of Poland, and this has to be changed. The Polish left sat at the negotiating table when the party in power needed us, when maturity was required, when we had to rise up against divisions, above divisions. We just believed that those funds, 60 billion euros of the RRF is what we need, is what we have been negotiating. This is 30% for local governments, 75,000 of cheap flats for rent, 850 million euros for local hospitals, and 300 million euros for those who have suffered most during the pandemic. And for 2 years, the governing party did nothing. They didn't get a single euro from Brussels to meet their duties, their goals. So we as the left say openly, those funds, when we come to power, will be transferred where they are needed, in hospitals, at schools, in public transport, for the support for equal rights of men and women, and for nursery schools at every local commune and not a luxury. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to say it in front of the cameras, in front of the Polish society, that yesterday, as the progressive European left, we took another historical decision. We announced it here in Krakow, and it didn't come by mistake. We pronounced the European Charter of Women's Rights, this barbaric law that was introduced in Poland, and we are conscious that it resonates with so many right-wing parties in Hungary, in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Italy. The law that brought about death of 6 women that were not provided with adequate health care on time. This law has to be changed. And European Charter of Women's Rights that was presented yesterday here in Krakow, this charter at last equalizes the rights of women all over Europe, because in 2023 there is no reason for Polish women to have less rights than women in Spain, in Portugal, or in the Netherlands. This cannot be. Ladies and gentlemen, we managed to unify many things in the European Union. For example, roaming. That was a great achievement of a social democracy. We have so many standards on bananas, on carrots. We'll have one single charger. But in the same European Union, ladies and gentlemen, for so many years, we have not been able to provide the same kind of rights to all women, irrespective of the fact whether they live in Warsaw, in Helsinki, or in Rome. It's absurd. That's why we, as the left, promise it here in Krakow. We will change it, and we'll have energy and determination to do so. And to end my speech, dear colleagues, I would like to appeal for your solidarity. From the country of the Solidarity Movement, I appeal to you because we will need your European solidarity. As we all stand here, we are proud Europeans. And as the Polish left, we believe that Polish men and women deserve solidarity. They deserve to have a great celebration. On the 1st of May, we celebrate the Labor Day. On the 3rd of May, in Poland, we celebrate the Constitution Day. And that's why we, as the left, propose to make the 2nd of May the day when we all became members of the European Union, to pronounce it, to make it a national holiday. This was the day when we woke up as proud Europeans. So I would like to appeal to you to keep up the spirit of the European project. We know that we are threatened. There are so many forces in Europe that want to quash our optimism. But we need your optimism, we need your support, like the ones that we have experienced here in Krakow. And please give us more of it. Millions of Poles are waiting for the upcoming election. They want their dream of a fresh, open Poland to come true, and this will not happen without European solidarity. And this is what I ask you to support us with more solidarity. All the best to you, Europe, all the best to you, Socialists, all the best for you, Irache, and for our group.
They are Robert, fantastic. I have not any doubt with your energy, with your passion, with your work. Our political family, Nova Lewica, will have a wonderful result, and it will be a wonderful news for Poland and for all of us. Fantastic, Robert. And now I will give the floor to Władimir Czasaste, please, co-chair of the Nova Lewica.
Witam Państwa serdecznie. Witam.
A very warm welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome MEPs of the second largest force in the European Parliament. My welcome on behalf of the second largest parliamentary caucus of the Polish opposition as a vice marshal of the Polish lower house of the parliament. Same, I also welcome you, and I'm very happy to have you here in Krakow. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as of yesterday, we have had in Poland a new political force crystallized in Poland, the Sovereign Poland. Interestingly enough, this is the force that has been founded by the Minister of Justice, Public Prosecutor General, and one of the leading figures in the rightist Polish government. As of yesterday, the word sovereignty is a fad of the day. Sovereignty is, according to the Minister of Justice in this country, sovereignty is something that is threatened by Russia and by the European Union alike. And Polish Orthodox right puts an equality mark between the threat emerging from Russia and the threat looming from the side of the European Union. Curiously, someone has forgotten the notion of internal sovereignty. Sovereignty vis-à-vis the clergy in Poland. I wonder how Polish right is going to win in the upcoming elections if not aided by the clergy. We, the left, we believe that Poland's sovereignty is about our membership of the European Union and NATO. NATO and the European Union stand as safeguards of Polish sovereignty. If Aleksander Kwaśniewski, the left president, has not signed the accession treaty with NATO, our sovereignty vis-à-vis Russia would be very much at stake right now. The Poles belong to the most Euro-enthusiastic societies in Europe. Poland's membership of the European Union is supported by 92% of the Polish people. Sovereign Poland is Poland that is part and parcel of the European Union. The Europe Agreement was signed by SND members, Prime Ministers Leszek Miller and Włodzimierz Cimoszewicz, who is with us today. I wish to thank you and acknowledge you for that. Only in concerted effort, acting together, we can effectively confront such challenges as pandemic, climate change, financial crisis, Russia's aggressive policy, or artificial intelligence. Only acting together in concerted effort can we build many elements of European infrastructure in Poland. We can build roads, bridges, also bridges connecting various peoples and nations, bridges between various histories of various nations. Sovereign Poland is Poland in the European Union, because Polish sovereignty should be achieved within EU institutions. This is not like a division, you and us. There is no mythical Brussels. In the European Commission and the Council, there are also Poles represented. Of course, the opposition, whom I represent, realizes full well that Poland has its own interests. Polish energy transition must be somewhat different because the high share of coal-based energy. Polish energy transition will be based on renewables and on nuclear energy, and we have achieved consensus to this end. We will be striving towards zero-emission economy, but at the pace that is palatable to the Polish society. We will stand firmly for Poland's interest in Brussels and in Strasbourg, but this in realization that European policy is not a zero-sum game. It is not that someone is winning and someone is losing, just the opposite. European policy and international relations is like a win-win situation. We do believe that cooperation between states and among states should serve enhanced welfare and security of all states and all societies. So we are very much against the vision of international relations that will be founded on oversimplifications and misguided theoretical policies. I'm saying so to the Polish right, Mr. Ziobro, Mr. Morawiecki, Mr. Kaczyński. We are against the vision of international relations that will be founded on historical prejudice and oversimplification. Poland's foreign policy will be founded on universal humanist values, solidarity among nations, fundamental rights and human rights. We will do our best to strengthen European integration through cooperation on social issues, including introducing various measures to protect labor law, social security and health protection. We will try to make sure that EU investments are transparent, supportive to innovation and climate friendly. We are in favor of granting to the European Parliament the legislative power and strengthening its controlling functions over the European Commission. Europe has many problems to be confronted with. Housing is one of them. This is especially seen in Southern Europe and in Central and Eastern Europe, where millions of young people cannot afford housing. 60% of Poles in the age bracket 20-29 live with their parents. Very often, young people stay with their parents not because they want to, but because they have to. The market has not resolved this problem. Not everyone is credit worthy. The state has not resolved this problem. The housing problem is still with us because the governmental project was failed through. That's why we think that it is the European Union that should resolve the housing problem. Is it impossible? Well, time was when joint procurement of vaccines was impossible. Joint procurement of munitions for the country fighting in the defensive war was impossible. So the time has come to make yet another step forward and create the European housing program. I will advocate creation of such a program. I will stand for it. I will urge you to start such a program. Of course, I do not expect that the European Commission should build houses. It is sufficient that the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund trigger of housing programs to be devolved upon community and town level to allow us low-emission construction of houses affordable to young people in Italy, in Poland, in any country in need. Europe financing houses to be rented and housing available, affordable to the young people, is the best translation of Europe for the young people. Europe must be also a Europe without war. We must create a whole class of new programs that will persuade young Europeans about the merits of European Union. So let us create the European housing program to this end. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, dear co-chair. And now, to closing this first part of our meeting, I will give the floor to Andrzej Szejna, as you know, Vice President of the PS. Andrzej, please.
Dzień dobry, witam Was wszystkich.
Hello. Very warm welcome to all of you. I'm quite moved because this is one of very rare opportunities of addressing SND Parliamentary Club. As a very young politician, years ago, I was elected as MEP and I was part of Socialists and Democrats back then, so I'm very happy to be back here. And it was back then that I came to know Irache, and the friendship has lasted to this day. Irache, thank you very much indeed. My dear friends, indeed, your presence is very meaningful for us, for New Lewica, New Left, because it is just on the eve of a parliamentary election in this country. But this is also a telling example that once the Polish government, the PiS government, is not competent in pursuing its foreign policy and persuading about Polish interests, cannot articulate Polish interests, we have to do it within parliamentary diplomacy, because you are here and we are the most enthusiastic society in Europe, and European socialists are also the most Euro-enthusiastic political force in Europe, and you would not be able to gather so many pro-European, pro-humanitarian, pro-social politicians and no other movement would attract so many valuable people. As of 2015, foreign policy of PiS was fraught with debate because of infringements of rule of law, of violations of LGBT community, and finally the alarming amendments in the Polish legislation at putting our judges at risks and violating the acquis communautaire that we have accepted, and also the provisions of the Polish constitution. So back in 2003, the Polish society spoke predominantly for Poland's entry to the European Union, and this pro-European spirit is still there, whatever the Polish government is doing. And this pro-European attitude is a massive impulse. Also, this was clearly seen from day one when Russian Putin state invaded independent sovereign Ukraine. The Polish government was caught off guard, was not prepared. Between 2015 and 2022, neither Prime Minister Szydło nor Prime Minister Morawiecki has ever visited in official capacity Ukraine. So this was the interest that PiS government showed to Ukraine. And we all knew that there was ongoing war in Ukraine ever since 2014, since the annexation of Crimea. But the Polish people, the Polish society, open, welcoming, welcomed millions of refugees from Ukraine, welcomed them to their homes, supported them, raised funds, and this was a massive effort that continues to this date. Of course, in this humanitarian effort, we need to be assisted and supported. We need European solidarity, because our policy vis-à-vis Ukraine should be part and parcel of our European policy. the policy of new security order. It cannot be pursued only bilaterally. It cannot be only pursued within the framework of transatlantic relations. So I'm all in favor of the strengthening of defense cooperation within the European Union. It may so happen that in 2024, our friend Joe Biden will not win in the elections in the United States. And what then? What then? Will the policy, transatlantic policy, be equally strong and effective, or shall we be left single-handed, not being priority for the new US administration? So we need to be progressive, forward-looking, building our strategic, as Irache put it, strategic autonomy in terms of security, of raw materials, of our external policy and migration policy as well. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I can say that our policy on Ukraine, and this must be articulated strongly, is also about upkeeping and upholding our progressive socialist values. So when we consider the reconstruction effort for Ukraine, and we really need to be part of this effort, structured and well-organized effort, we must make sure that a new Ukraine is built, that there is no return to the pre-war Ukraine fraught by oligarchy, social inequalities, and disrespect of women's rights. So this is a new opportunity of creating a new order in Ukraine, new system that will fit into the European Union. Ukraine should be given a very clear message on what conditions it can exceed the European Union and NATO. This must be clear, but this must be doable, unlike it was the case with Turkey. Ukraine must also observe and abide by our own values. It cannot be expected to be achieved overnight. So today, with the present government, where it's so difficult to build foreign policy, where we are not credible as an international partner due to our poor record on respecting our own rules and laws, we think that Poland may appear to be attractive to the European Union, but now as we are forging new alliances for the times of peace in Ukraine, we should also think ahead. We should think ahead. And today, Poland's foreign policy, chaotic, non-existent, ruined, will require a lot of new effort to be reconstructed, to rebuild Poland's prestige. I hope you will help us in this effort. I hope that we'll be able to restore Polish position in the international arena, that we will regain respect that Poland deserves in the international arena. Today, I can guarantee to you that if we manage to gain the upper hand in the autumn elections in Poland, then, in order to make our policy vis-à-vis Ukraine effective, the first step would be to restore rule of law, because there is no solid foreign policy and security policy without rule of law at home. And one word about global relations and the new political order in the world. To my mind, what we see right now is a new global order in the making. It is not only featuring the disputes between the United States and China. We must remember about the global south. China, it must be remembered, China is a country that is moving like a snake. It is always in pursuit of its own vested interests, as much as illustrated by the most visit of President Putin to China and the vote in the United Nations General Assembly, well, for the very first time it was declared that Ukraine suffers from Russian aggression, but the European strategic autonomy should be the focal point, the basic point of reference for socialists and democrats in Europe. Thank you very much for having me here, for sharing some of my views with many of you. Thank you for the opportunity to see you again. Many of you MEPs, many colleagues from previous caucuses and the present term in office, are familiar faces. I hope we will rekindle those friendships for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei. And now, after these wonderful speeches, we will open the floor. There are a few members who asked the floor, but in any case, if some of you want to take now the floor, you can ask for it. We will start with Jens, please.
Jetzt bin ich aber sehr überrascht, dass ich den Einstieg machen darf. Herzlichen Dank, Irace.
I'm surprised I'm allowed to speak first, but anyway, thank you, Irace. Colleagues, Polish colleagues, thank you so much for your words, for your addresses. We're looking at the situation not just as S&D members, not just as group members, but we are paying close attention to your country and to the upcoming elections. But we, as the German S&D, German SPD, are very intrigued. So I don't say that just on behalf of the European SPD members, but for the whole of the German SPD, and we will provide as much support as we can to you. It's so important that we get rid of the current government in Poland. We'll do whatever we can to help you. When you took the floor, you made it clear that Poland's entry into the EU was thanks to the Polish left. It was a Polish president who was in power when you acceded. So we can be proud to have you as our members, and the fact that you helped Poland to accede to the Union. But since your accession, we've seen what the right thinks of Europe. They can't stand Europe. They can't stand the EU. And I think we've heard numerous examples of that today. Polish sovereignty isn't endangered by the EU. That's a tale that is told by the European right in countless countries. In the UK, they were so convincing that they managed to bring about Brexit. And look at the UK. It's been an economic disaster. Brexit has been an economic disaster. So let me just underline this. It's so important that Poland remain an EU member, a full EU member. That's in the interest of the people, the citizens, and is in your economic interests. So your sovereignty is not jeopardized, but there is a risk of erosion of democracy and women's rights and other rights. But we do have to push back if there is erosion of rights, because Poland signed up to the treaties and to the rules, and any Polish government is bound to those EU rules. We spoke to the Polish trade unions this morning, and we heard about various legal pieces of legislation, including the methane regulation, which could affect Silesia, because it could affect mining. Mining is supposed to be phased out bit by bit in Poland. We, as Poland, we as S&D, excuse me, have tried to maintain these jobs in Silesia while also trying to reduce the methane emissions from this sector. But I was a bit shocked by what I heard. The Polish government reacted very late to the methane regulation. The Polish government didn't take early action. The Polish government didn't say to the Commission that the methane regulation could cause social disruption in Poland, in Silesia. We had to do that. So your government in Poland doesn't do what it should. So there are opportunities and challenges at European level to which the Polish government doesn't react. So the current Polish government needs to be gotten rid of. It's in the interests of Polish workers and the Polish people as a whole. So we will do whatever we can to help you in getting rid of that government.
Thank you, Jens. Margarita?
Merci. Thank you, Iracha. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the words we've just heard. I'd like to honestly thank you for having shared your political experience in Poland here with us. Yesterday in Group B, looking at budgetary issues, we were able to hear from people who are involved in the Polish judiciary system, and they came and explained how the rule of law is not working in Poland. And today you also shared your experiences with us. I have a question that goes along with what my colleague asked. In 2015, with the Paris Treaty, Poland was able to blackmail the EU because the EU wanted to sign the Paris Agreement as the EU and not individual member states. Poland blackmailed the EU and was able to get additional financing to pay for the climate and energy transitions in order to sign the Paris Agreement. Then going down the list, the same blackmail happened with the MFF of the EU for the 2021-27 period. Exactly the same situation arose then. And every time there are important decisions to be taken, what we see from this Polish government in the council is that they try to block political decisions that are being taken in the EU and to block progress of the EU in various political areas. We know that Polish people are very pro-European. Eurobarometer shows that that citizens of Poland want to continue to remain in the EU, and they are very pro-EU. So my question is, what can we do to help? For example, with the conditionality and rule of law legislation, we said that when the rule of law isn't protected, then there was conditionality because European money is to protect European values. But what I want to hear from you is, well, there is clear solidarity from the socialists, but what can the European Union do to act to promote the rule of law and at the same time ensure that the Polish citizens will continue to support the EU?
Sí, Margarita. Elisabetta?
So, first of all, really thank you, Irache, and thank you, Robert, because, you know, we are here, of course, to support you for the next political elections. But I think that this is also a great opportunity, you know, to raise a little bit our gaze, to encourage a long-term vision, and to reflect on, you know, what it means to be socialists, what it means to encourage a good society, which is the one that responds to the minimum expectations of citizens. So, just two comments. First of all, I do realize that democracy is not fashionable. So we have to think that democracy is fragile. It is not a structural conquest. It is a daily achievement. Because, you know, authoritarian regimes are more fashionable because it's easier to respond to complex challenges if only one decides. And democracy is exhausting. It is tiring, you know, to compromise with 27 kind of states. But on the contrary, we have to convince our people that democracy is the rule, that, as David Sassoli told us, the European Union is a history of mankind liberation. That is that if you acquire civil rights, social rights, political rights, you become a full individual. So, colleagues, we have not to take for granted the democracy. We have to defend and protect our European democracy, because this is really what this is really what is the soul of our European Union, and do not forget that we have to defend our democracy. Second of all, of course, we have to defend democracy in the European Union, but we also have to have a democracy which delivers. Because in Poland, yes, you have a high, incredibly, and this is a sort of a paradox, a high rate of, you know, pro-European, pro-Europe kind of people, and we cannot deceive them. We have to deliver something. And so when you speak about, you know, housing plan, salaries, work, poverty, we have to demonstrate to our people that we can do things that touch their daily lives. And so I think that one issue from here ahead, also facing our European elections, is how to manage, you know, also regarding competencies, and how to invent or to formulate some policies or ideas or strategies in housing, in poverty, and so on and so forth, that really touch the human, you know, and the daily life of our citizens. I think that Poland is a great country, and, you know, the fact that we are together is really a sign that we are a community of destinies, a community of faith. So we are with you, Robert, and with your colleagues, and we really wish you good luck, and we will support you in your fight for democracy, freedom, pluralism, and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. The last two colleagues who will ask the floor, please, 2 minutes, because we have to make a press conference and family photo, and we need to be in time. Gabi, please, and Pedro.
Ich kann sehr kurz sein. Ich möchte noch mal sagen, wie
I'll keep it brief. It's just so good to be with you, to experience Krakow with you, and to see that we are a strong, progressive family. What do we stand for? A fairer society. And it's really clear what the Law and Justice Party stands for. They stand for division, division of society, and for the division of Europe. Gridlock instead of shaping Europe. And they want to drag us backwards into the past. Robert spoke about the need for a Charter of Fundamental Rights for women. You know, Law and Justice want to take us back. They want to limit the rights of different groups. And we are actually in one of the most pro-EU societies here in Poland. And it's clear that the Law and Justice Party is actually a danger to the whole of Poland and to the whole of Europe. So change is long overdue, I would say.
Thank you, Gabi. Pedro.
Thank you, Irache. I cannot resist. I mean, we have been here. I mean, proudly on your side for democracy in Poland, but I have to go a bit back to the basics in politics. I mean, we need to build enough strength to defeat those that are against democracy. So I would like to ask the two co-leaders of our party here in Poland, what do you see regarding this? How should we build this big coalition for democracy in Poland? Do we need to send that clear message to the other European political families? Should we really get back together to fight against those that are against democracy in Poland? I know that we need democracy back in Poland for a better Europe. So how do you see it regarding this possible big coalition towards democracy in Poland? That's my concrete question to you, and all the best for all of you.
One sentence.
Yeah, one sentence, because there are a few questions. As you can understand, we cannot respond to all of these questions. We will have other opportunities to meet with our colleagues from Nova Lewica, and of course we have our colleague in the Polish delegation. But in any case, only about this question, we will make some message. Yeah, Lodek?
Drogi Pedro, Polska.
Dear Pedro, Polish left is for the integration of all the opposition forces in Poland. We have expressed this urge, and we still believe that this is needed. We believe that urgently we need an agreement for a common coalition government after the election. And no matter how many voting lists we have, we don't want to lose a single vote. I believe that people need to know that if they vote for the opposition, they can count for a sensible, well-thought program of policy. And I believe that if it's possible to make one single list, we will support it as the Polish left, as we have been supporting this idea. The Polish left supports all initiatives for the integration of the Polish opposition. We understand who our enemy is. We can understand what cooperation and compromise mean, and we know what democracy is all about. Kwaśniewski, Cimoszewicz, Miller, Totas, all of those who helped bring Poland to Europe.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you all very much. Thank you to all of the colleagues who've participated on the panel. Thank you to our colleagues from Nova Lewica who have been with us this morning. Now, we certainly face significant challenges, particularly for Poland and for Europe, as I said at the beginning, because what happens in Poland will also be key in determining the future of Europe. So it's time to get down to work together to continue to build this European project. And thank you all for your efforts. Thank you for the members of the Parliament who've come to Krakow here to be with our colleagues, to all of the staff who have made this possible by organizing the event. And now we'll move on with the agenda.
Continuamos con la agenda.
We have some organized visits this afternoon. This evening there's an open doors event with civil society. We all have a great deal of work to do, so I hope we all have a good day. In a couple of minutes, we're just going to try to organize a family photo. Please, let's be disciplined and listen to the people doing the photo. We tend to know how this goes. Everyone seems to do whatever they want, so let's try and just keep a bit of discipline.
You're the boss. Where do we take the photo?
I think that here, no, like.
But they would, I think